What's up guys, Ruppy here, and welcome to week 6 of the BBR-D League. Not gonna lie, it has not been looking pretty good for us the past few weeks between the whole controller issue that led to me getting crushed by Rose, and then me walking right into weakness policy Galarian Articuno last week that I knew that's what it was, and I still walked into it anyway. I cannot, however, fault Ark for that. That was a great bring, and I'm the idiot who walked right into it. So yeah, things have kind of been not looking so hot for us. The BBR curse of a midseason collapse, apparently, if your name is Ruppy. But maybe this will be the week that turns it around for us. 3-2 plus 4 is not bad. It is still keeping us in playoff contention. But a win would definitely better our chances of basically locking that in as we head towards the end of the season. This week, we are playing the Arkham City Delibirds, coached by A12. And he's got a really interesting team. He actually made some moves recently, and I will address them to the best of my ability. But my team's just sitting here in our locker room, chilling out, enjoying the snow, because I felt doing it from somewhere snowy was fitting, considering, Delibirds think there's snow in Arkham City. It's been a while since I played Batman Arkham City, honestly. I should probably maybe go back and play that game at some point. Anyway, let's go ahead and flip on over to the Teambuilder. We'll leave the, snow behind for a bit. And let's get into A12's team. It will be appearing off to the right, and it is as follows. Darkrai, Galarian Slowking, Rillaboom, Excadrill, Raikou, Landorus Therian, Vaporeon, Rampardos, which is his Tera Captain, Wigglytuff, and Regigigas, which I believe is the mon, if I'm remembering correctly, is the mon he actually added right before the end of last week, so it is valid for this week. This is a bit of a weird team. I will admit to that right up front. It has a lot of intricate pieces to it that on paper don't look like they mesh well together. Maybe there's something I'm just not looking too deep into. Darkrai is a fast, powerful dark type. It's been Ubers for a long time. It kind of fell off finally this gen, so there's a reason it's allowed in draft. Still a very scary mon if you do not know what to expect, as Gentleman Thomas so kindly showed me during our playoff game back in the recent season of UMPL. Galarian Slowking is interesting. It's a really solid special wall, all things considered, even if it has nothing that immediately takes advantage of Chili Reception. I am aware Raikou gets Weather Ball, which is probably where any snow abuse is going to come from in this game. Raikou is fast, it can pivot around, it can set up with Calm Mind. It's got potential to be a bit of a problem. Landorus Therian with Intimidate is always annoying. He has quite a few rock setters, honestly, but his removal is really limited to just Excadrill with Rapid Spin, so that is something I could potentially take advantage of. He's got some solid walls. Rillaboom does seem a little weird with both Excadrill and Landorus Therian, because it kind of nerfs the power of Earthquake. But I believe they do all... I know Excadrill does. I'm not sure if Landorus Therian has access to, say, high horsepower. Then again, Lando could run a special set with Earth Power instead, so it's a way to get around it. There is some interesting options here, and Rampardos as a Tera Captain is actually kind of terrifying if I do not prepare for it. So, with that said, let's go ahead and get into my team and see how I actually plan on addressing this roster. I will admit right off the gate... I'm going to admit right out of the gate here, this was a bit of a rush job. I tried to dedicate a fair amount of time into trying to come up with some intricate ideas, but I prepped this team basically just this morning right before I had to go into work, because it has been a very hectic week for me work-wise, as is becoming more and more often the case, and I am not a fan of it, but it is what it is. And I'm kind of recording this team builder right before we play this game, so yeah, we're going to see how well it works out. But we're going to start with our big win con right out of the gate here. The mon I definitely put a lot probably the most thought into for this team with the limited time I did have to build. That being Artemis the Ursaluna. Ursaluna, I definitely feel is my biggest win con here because A12's team has quite a few weaknesses on it, especially in the ground department, and Ursaluna takes full advantage of that. This is just a bulky offensive tank. The 16 speed EVs I have on here are basically the idea is to kind of outspeed creep Wigglytuff to some degree. And on the off chance he wants to try, say, some sort of bulky offensive Rampardos to abuse with Trick Room with Galarian Slowking, which is very much a possibility. I can outrun it outside of Trick Room, so there is that. I definitely have the bulk to be able to take hits from this thing regardless of what it is. Even if it's like, say, Banded Tera Rock Head Smash, I should actually be able to take it. I can take any of the coverage moves that the likes of Darkrai and Raikou want to throw at me. On that subject, however, let's talk about the ability. I am foregoing Guts this week in favor of Bulletproof. And it is specifically because of the coverage moves on the likes of Darkrai and Raikou. Because this Ursaluna cannot be hit by Focus Blast, which would kind of mean Darkrai would have to go Ice Beam if he's running a special set, which I don't see why he wouldn't. Or Scald on Raikou, which I do have the investment to be able to take, especially behind screens, but we will get into that soon enough. But this makes Ursaluna immune to Focus Blast, Aura Sphere. If he wants to pull Snowy Weather Ball on me, Ursaluna is immune to that as well. Gives me a lot of potential options to just eat hits by virtue of not having to actually eat them and just respond. 136 attack investment with Adamant Nature definitely means Ursaluna is hitting like a truck. I've got Drain Punch and Ice Punch for coverage. Substitute. Basically, Sub is my way of taking advantage of its switches and of any potential switches and a lot of his more passive mons to allow Ursaluna the best possible position for whatever he brings in that is meant to be an answer to Ursaluna. This is especially true of Rillaboom because, believe it or not, with this bulk, I can actually take an Adamant Max Attack Choice Banded Grassy Glide in the terrain. Only one, though, and only if I'm at full health, but between leftovers and potential grassy terrain, Ursaluna can get healed back up really quickly and be able to rip huge chunks out of Rillaboom, so it's not as good of an answer. And then there's Headlong Rush. Obviously, I had to keep grassy terrain in mind because of Rillaboom, so that kind of took Earthquake out of the equation. Headlong Rush, however, which is basically the ground equivalent of Close Combat, that is not weakened by grassy terrain. So it does lower my defenses as a result, but because I don't have to worry about the terrain nerfing it, it feels like the best option for just a super strong ground hit to really take advantage of the hefty ground weakness that A12's team has and just completely rip right through it. So that is basically the main game plan with Ursaluna here, and I'm really looking forward to hopefully making it work. Next up, we have Keldeo. This is the same EV spread I ran as last week, but it is obviously a very different set. That being a sub-Calm Mind set with leftovers. I actually felt that if I could get behind a sub and get up a boost or two, Keldeo actually has a chance to cause a ton of problems for A12's entire team. But just between the dual stab of Surf and Secret Sword, especially since with Secret Sword I can address the likes of Regigigas, I can get around some of his more physically defensive options that would normally resist Surf. Timid 192 speed EVs in this scenario always outruns a jolly max speed Regigigas. That feels like an absurd thought, especially considering slow start. But I wanted to be absolutely sure of that possibility in case I do end up letting Regigigas kind of get those 5 turns for whatever reason. I don't plan on it, but if it does come, it's a scenario I want to be prepared for. Not to mention everything else I outrun along the way. That said, though, there is one I do need to be a bit careful with in that regard, and it is Vaporeon. Because Vaporeon could potentially have Haze to get rid of my boosts. And the main idea behind running this particular Keldeo set was to turn Vaporeon from being a difficult to take down, near insurmountable wall meant to keep Keldeo at bay and basically turn it into setup fodder. And if Vaporeon has Haze, that kind of eliminates the whole point of that. I don't know if he will run Haze just because, I mean, I do have a lot of boosting potential, but, I mean, we will see how it goes. If he does have Haze on Vaporeon, fair enough. I will figure something else out. But if that's not the case, or if he doesn't bring Vaporeon at all, I think Keldeo could actually have a really solid game here. Next up is Harvester the Scyther, and this one is pretty simple. The Jolly 216 Speed EVs, again, they're always outrunning Jolly Max Speed Regigigas. Figured if I might as well benchmark for it. The 40 HP EVs do give me a decent amount of bulk as well. Scyther is here mainly for two purposes. Number one is being my main Rillaboom check because I quad resist both Grassy Glide and Wood Hammer, even from an Adamant Banded set in the terrain. And then I can immediately threaten it with U-turn or dual Wing Beat. U-turn allows me to be able to pivot around. With Heavy Duty Boots and Defog, I can get rid of the rocks he will very likely set because he does have quite a few rock setters. I know it will get rid of any hazards I set up on his side, but I feel it's worth it, especially since if I keep my hazard setters healthy, I can just get those hazards right back up. And once Excadrill is gone, he will not be able to get rid of them. To some degree. I'll touch more on that when I get to that point. Next up, we have Terabyte the Metagross, and I have a really interesting set I'm running here. It is Iron Defense, Body Press with Leftovers. Clear Body prevents me from having any of my stats lowered, which is nice for Landorus and its Intimidate. With Iron Defense and Body Press, all I really need is one Iron Defense, and with this bulk investment, I can tank even Earthquakes outside of the terrain from the likes of Landorus, Therian, and Excadrill, which would certainly be appreciated. I can then turn right around and threaten them with Ice Punch, which I have as coverage for Landorus, Therian, and to a lesser degree Rillaboom. Or Body Press, which is the main, especially when boosted with Iron Defense, takes advantage of the fighting weakness that that A12's team does have. I've got Heavy Slam on there really just for a strong Steel Stab, just as kind of a neutral play, especially with Metagross's weight. I can do a ton of damage. Definitely a tanky setup Metagross that I think could punch a few holes in A12's team and open a few doors. I did mention I did kind of rush this prep a bit because of how hectic this week has been for me because of work and kind of rushing right before work to get a whole team prepped, but it's definitely the most noticeable with these last two Mons, but I still feel they have their place here. Starting with Master Orc the Grimmsnarl. Long story short, this is the exact same set I brought for my Week 2 game, but it still does work here. I mean, Light Clay, dual screens with Grimmsnarl, they basically make my tanks even harder to take down, and also allow me to take extra hits from any potential setup he could run on his side. Parting Shot is there to kind of also address those kinds of mons, as well as, in tandem with screens, kind of create a few more openings for the likes of Metagross and Ursaluna, and even Keldeo to some degree. It will not work on Darkrai because of the drawback to Prankster that it does not affect Dark types, but that should be fine because I have Play Rough, so Grimmsnarl is not entirely passive, and allows me to be able to address the Darkrai issue a bit, because I believe even with minimal investment, Play Rough is a 2-shot on Darkrai. That said, in regards to Parting Shot, one thing I do need to be careful of is Wigglytuff potentially having competitive, but if I play my cards right, it shouldn't be too big of an issue, especially since Wigglytuff is on the slower end of things. It would only really be a concern if Trick Room is a factor, but I will have to keep that in mind. Also forgot to mention with Metagross, again, the 16 speed EVs are mostly to kind of pseudo outspeed creep some things. Not really too important, it's just something I want to consider, just in case he wants to try to run like a faster, a particular speed spread with a slower, bulkier Rampardos, or even Wigglytuff, anything like that. But let's move on to my final mon, Algae Bloom the Dragalge, which is the very definition of last second mons, because I didn't know what else really put in this slot. But the more I thought about it, the more I feel Dragalge actually has a place here with what I'm bringing. This is basically a bulky utility set. With 52 EVs in special attack and a modest nature, with adaptability, Draco Meteor and Sludge Wave are still taking huge chunks out of this team because that is just how absurd Dragalge is because of adaptability, even with base 97 special attack and minimal investment. But Dragalge's main purpose here, in addition to being a backup Rillaboom check, I do have to be wary of the likes of high horsepower, but Dragalge is here to basically be a bulky nuisance, and this is where my last two moves really come into play to help with that. Toxic Spikes, while I am aware he does have Slowking, if I get into a situation where it's Dragalge versus Slowking, I can set up my T-Spikes right in front of that thing because he would have to switch out to be able to absorb them. And that puts him in a position then where something has to get poisoned, and then he has to bring Slowking back in. There is the fact that Landorus, Therian, and Excadrill are immune, but I don't know if they would really want to... Well, if Lando wants to take the risk of switching into a potential Draco, or if either one of them wants to switch into a potential Scald, I could also throw out, especially with the burn possibility. So I feel that kind of forcing Slowking to have to pivot back in repeatedly allows me to be able to create better scenarios for myself where I can take the upper hand. And then I have Dragon Tail. Because of Dragalge's natural special bulk, I feel like I can easily get myself into positions where I'd be able to tank hits from those things. And especially if they try to set up, like with Nasty Plot Darkrai or a Calm Mind Raikou, and just Dragon Tail them out so they are not much of an issue anymore to get rid of those boosts and allow my team a little more of a safety net, especially behind Grimmsnarl's screens, to be able to try to maintain the upper hand in this game and hopefully pull out a victory. So that is going to do it as we flip back over to the locker room. My team is, despite being a bit of a rush job, certainly looks ready to go. Will my rush prep somehow actually pay off? Did I put enough thought into it to make it work all the same? I really hope so, because I don't want to end up having to drop 3 straight, but there's only one way to find out for sure. So I'll see you guys when it's battle time. Alright, it is battle time. Feeling a little nervous about this one because of the rushed prep, but I think I've got some good ideas here, and we'll see how it goes. So he's got the Darkrai, Regigigas, Raikou, Excadrill, Galarian Slowking, and the Rampardos, which he has told me is Tera Water. Interesting. No Rillaboom is kind of surprising. Same with no Vaporeon, actually. Would have figured one of those two or both of them would have come. Huh. No Landorus either, I'm realizing. That is actually a huge load off. So, based on this, I wouldn't be surprised at a Rampardos lead if he wanted to be really aggressive. Honestly, I think just leading Artemis is my best play. Yeah, that seems like the most aggressive thing I could do here. I think that actually might work. Just leading with Artemis and then trying to apply pressure right out of the gate. I think that'll work. I think this Ursaluna set has a lot of potential, weird as it is. So, A12, good luck, have fun. Make sure you guys go check out his channel and give him a sub. And he's going to lead with the Excadrill. So already we're starting off not necessarily in a bad spot. And there is Mold Breaker, that is of no surprise to me, and he is Air Balloon, which, you know, makes sense when you really think about it with, because of this thing. So, I wouldn't put it past him to try to set up. I wouldn't be surprised if he tries to go Rocks, maybe? I'm just going to Drain Punch to break his balloon. He is just going to set up Rocks. That's fine. Maybe I should have just gone ahead and subbed, but I didn't want to take the risk. So that's just going to do a ton of damage. Pop the air balloon. And this would be his only spinner. So I don't know if he... I kind of want to sub. Part of me thinks he might just sack this thing, though. I'm going to go ahead and set up a sub. Nope, he just goes straight for the Earthquake. Which is fine. Artemis eats that. I get behind a sub. And we are in business. He knows I'm leftovers now. I'm just going to Drain Punch to finish this thing off if he does want to sack it, which looks like the play. I mean, it's interesting because I very well could have put rocks on my Metagross. But that's fine. Because Drill is gone, I can defog these rocks away at any point. Drill also looks like the only hazards... Well, Rampardos could set hazards. That is a possibility. And knowing that he's Tera Water... I wouldn't be surprised to see it come out right now, actually. Yup. Somehow that does not surprise me. And I saw no proccing of Mold Breaker, so that tells me this thing is Sheer Force. So if he's Tera Water, he Terrasolizes right now, and has Tera Blast. 277, that would definitely kill. Options. I'm almost positive that's what he's going to do. And I'm willing to go into Algae Bloom for that. Because, I mean, it'd be nice for Regigigas, but honestly, I think Algae Bloom's the least... It was the last second edition, and it's the least... I think it's the mod I'm most willing to sack here, honestly. Yep, as he does, just go ahead and Tera now. I think this is the mod I'm most willing to sack, because given what he brought, it was mostly here to kind of address setup sweepers, which, I mean, Raikou could still very well be, so I do need to keep that in mind. But I should be able to take a Tera Blast from this thing and gauge exactly what kind of set he is, based on the damage he does to me. 292 to 194. Or 154. It's 88 to 46. So, that tells me you are very possibly Adamant Banded based on that damage roll. Which means I should be out of range of another one. And I'm willing to fire off a Draco here. Yep, he's going to switch. So I think Adamant Bandit is in fact what he is. I think this thing is meant to be a breaker. So I'm going to be able to pop this thing with a Draco, which is fine. It eats that. Based on that... Okay, I don't see any recovery. I mean, you could very well Chilly Reception out. I'm going to go ahead and get a layer T-Spikes up. I know this thing could very well just come back in and absorb them, but I want to try to put that pressure on him to make him do that. He's Chilly Reception. Okay. So that is good to know. So it is snowing now. That tells me he is probably Boots, maybe. Because I saw no Black Sludge recovery. So maybe he's Boots. He can't be AV if he Chilly Receptioned out. But I have one layer of T-Spikes up, so, and with Excadrill gone, whatever comes in is going to have to take it. And I am perfectly fine with Regigigas being the thing that gets poisoned, honestly, out of that. So Algae Bloom's going to be able to recover right back up. This thing is going to take poison damage. And now, what do you do becomes the question. I'm tempted to go into Harvester right now and get rid of these rocks. But since I don't think there's a whole lot this Regigigas can actually do to me. Yeah, I think I'll go ahead and do that. This Regigigas shouldn't be doing too much to me since Slow Start is in effect. And it's getting whittled down with... I mean, it could be a Rest Talk set, which is fine. I have ways around that. He's just going to knock off, which is fine. I lose my boots, but I am not going to need them in a moment anyway. He has Leftovers. Noted. Okay. So he has Leftovers. He has Knockoff. I'm willing to get rid of my Toxic Spike just to get rid of these rocks. Again, I still have Dragalge. I can just get that T-Spike right back up at any point. He's just going to withdraw. Into what? Well, he kind of took care of my job for me on that front, which is fine. So, rocks are gone now, and they are not going back up because Excadrill is gone. So far I've only seen Chilly Reception from you. You turning out feels like the safe play here. It should chip this thing down, allow me to maybe get a feel for how physically bulky it is. And then I can respond accordingly. Because I have ways of breaking through this thing. I have Ursaluna. I have Metagross actually wouldn't be a bad idea either. So that does a good chunk of damage. Honestly, kind of tempted right now to... What would he have done to this thing? Flamethrower, perhaps? That is very much an option he could have done if he's got it. If that is the case, and I make this play I'm considering right now, I'm going to go into Terabyte. I want to say, if he Flamethrower is good on him, I should be able to take it, though. He just, Chilly Reception's out again. Fair enough. Fair enough. So this thing pivoting around is going to be a point of contention for me. Now the question becomes, what does he go into? I would honestly not be surprised if he goes Darkrai here. That is exactly what he's going to do. So if he's a Life Orb set, he definitely KOs Terabyte. If he's a Nasty Plot set, though, that could be a potential problem. I do need to keep that in mind. And on that note, I think I'm willing to Body Press and risk Terabyte. Yeah, I'm willing to take that gamble. The knockoffs! Okay. So, that is perfectly fine. And I do a huge chunk to this thing. So, more of a mixed set then. Which is interesting and kind of makes me wonder if he does have, I mean, Metagross isn't as valuable to me anymore. I'm willing to Body Press again. I'm willing to Yeah. Absolutely not. We are having none of that today. Goodbye. Honestly, at that point, I was just willing to sack Metagross. Just because I didn't want to give him a chance to set up on a potential switch, which is ultimately what happened. If I lost Metagross, that is fine. I could have just gone into Keldeo to threaten this thing out at that point. But Metagross is here, and Metagross is doing work. So Raikou is in now. Curious what you are. At 137, and without my leftovers, I should die to a T-Bolt if that's what you want to go for. I'm just going to keep body pressing away. Yep, you're just going to go for a T-Bolt. And that should, yep, pick me off. Which, honestly, is completely fine with me. Metagross did more than I was expecting it to at that point anyway, so I'm willing to make that trade. Now, of course, becomes the question of what do I do about this thing? And, honestly, I think going into Master Org and getting a white screen up is the play. If he wants to Calm Mind up, he can. I can get around that with Parting Shot. And basically, I think my play here is to kind of... Yeah, I think White Screen into... I mean, I can Parting Shot freely now with Darkrai gone. So that is certainly a good thing to note. I'm curious exactly what this Raikou has. But a Light Screen would definitely help, especially if I Parting Shot into Ursaluna to deal with this thing. So my Light Screen is going to go up. And he is going to just straight up T-Bolt. Which crits me. That definitely sucks. I'm just going to Parting Shot out. I'm not seeing left... Well, he's going to switch. That is fine. Into Galarian Slowking. Which is fine. I Parting Shot out. So this thing's offensive stats are lowered. I have my Light Screen. And... honestly... This just kind of feels like it's begging. Yeah, this is just begging for me to go into Artemis. I get leftovers recovery, which is nice. I don't think this thing really threatens me. If I were him, I would probably flat switch. I'm just going to get a sub up, because that feels like the ideal play here, because... with Light Screen behind a sub, Artemis is looking real good right now. To threaten what's left. To threaten what's left of his team. The Regigigas is poisoned. Rampardos is tera'd, and it's not a threat if I'm safely behind a sub. He would have to break my sub first. Raikou... especially with the Light Screen up, I don't think he can touch me. Yeah, this kind of feels like Ursaluna's time to finally shine. He's just gonna flat switch, which is... I had a feeling he would want to preserve the thing. Into the Rampardos, which works out for me. He has Terra Water. But I'm safely behind a sub. And honestly, I think a Headlong Rush just wrecks this thing regardless. Because its defenses are kind of on the frail side, so I'm just going to go for it. I have no reason not to. He unleashes his banded Terra Water Terra Blast, which is definitely going to destroy my sub. But we're going to see how well he takes this Headlong Rush. I brought this to get a wrap because Earthquake would have been nerfed by Grassy Terrain. And that is the end of Rampardos. Alrighty. So the Rampardos issue is off the table. The slight downside is my defenses are lowered because of the Headlong Rush. But I still think we're fine here. This thing is poisoned. I mean, he could knock off my leftovers. That is very much a possibility. I think I'm just gonna go into Harvester, honestly. If something happens and I lose control of this, I don't need Harvester anymore. Ideally. And he just knocks off again, which I know I can take because I don't have my boots anymore. And now we definitely threaten this thing. I'm curious what he goes for here. I'm gonna go for a dual wing beat. Just in case he wants to rest up here. I don't want to wait. If he's a rest Toxic, I don't want to get any potential defense drops that could come back to bite me. He just knocks off again. Interesting. I think I picked this thing off with a U-turn at this point. Maybe? That looks to be about 25%, so maybe not, depending on how bulky this thing is. So I think just another dual wing beat is not a bad idea, just to finish this thing off. So that takes care of that. So the Regigigas problem is resolved. That just leaves Raikou and Galarian Slowking. And Galarian Slowking is running out of things to chilly reception into. Speaking of this thing, how many turns of light screen do I have left? This is my last turn. Fair enough. Honestly, kind of tempted to just let Harvester go here. I mean, I could play for differential, but I also... I don't know how comfortable I feel about that in hindsight, though. I'm just gonna go for a dual wing beat. Better to just... Which I miss. How about that? I didn't even know dual wing beat could miss. I see his chilly reception's out again. Maybe in hindsight I should have just U-turned out, but it's fine. Huh, dual wing beat's accuracy is only 90%. Interesting. I've honestly never seen a miss. So Raikou comes in now. My light screen is going to go away. But that is fine. I'm just going to U-turn out on the off chance he does that. Fair enough. So I'm able to get damage off on this thing. So he is a Calm Mind set. Interesting. Maybe it's just a Calm Mind set with boots, perhaps? Okay, I want to see something here real quick. Because I want to make sure I'm not accidentally throwing this away. Yeah, Master Orc's the play. I need my light screen back up. He is leftovers. Noted. Okay, so he's at +1 because of Calm Mind. He's got the leftovers. I'm just going to get my light screen right back up. Because that is the best practice for this moment. So he is at +2 now. I could just play rough here. Nah, I'm gonna parting shot. Better to not take that gamble. So... yeah, I feel like Algae Bloom's my play here. Because I can Dragon Tail this thing out. Does he Calm Mind again? Yes, he does. I had a feeling. That is fine, though. We can still make this work. Because I'm at 234 now. I'm definitely out of range of a Weather Ball if that is the play, so I'm going to go ahead and Dragon Tail here. Yep, he's just going to go ahead and Weather Ball me, which I should be able to take. I indeed do. And I hit this Dragon Tail, so no more Calm Mind boosts. And that's going to force him back into Slowking. There goes the snow. I wouldn't be surprised if he tries that again, but at this point, he might be better off just getting rid of Dragalge. You know what? I'm going to set up a T-Spike. Because now that I know Raikou has leftovers... oh! So that's what we're doing here. I didn't realize he had Toxic Spikes as well. Well, I can just go ahead, get a second layer up. If he wants to do that as well, he is free to do so. He has no way of getting rid of them. He's just going to Side Shock. That is fine. I will take that. So, on that note then... I mean, I don't have Guts, but I do have my Light Screen still. Honestly, kind of wishing I had gone, Guts now. It's fine, though. I think we can still make this work. I am poisoned, which is gonna suck. But... I'm just gonna go ahead and Headlong Rush. I have no reason not to. Get rid of this thing. And all that remains now is Raikou. I'm at minus defenses, and I am poisoned, but Raikou's going to be Toxic, I believe. It's essentially going to be at the equivalent of Toxic, and even at minus 1 Spadef, he can't Weather Ball. I mean, he can Well, no, he can't Weather Ball me anyway. If he's got Scald, I should be able to take that, even from here. So yeah, I think one more Headlong Rush, and Artemis pretty much cleans up. He does, in fact, have Scald, which Artemis takes, and that is going to do it. Whew. A12? GG, my friend. Sorry, Ursaluna kind of used this as an excuse to, I guess, stunt all over you a little bit. Well, not really, I guess. It just did its job well. It did everything I could have ever asked of it. But that was an incredibly solid game. It does feel good on my end to get back on the winning side of things. I was admittedly a little worried because I did rush my prep, but I think some of the tech I brought did end up working out ultimately. So, Not gonna say I need to prep on a time constraint every week, but it's good to know I can still... It's good to know I still have some magic left. GG again to A12. Please go ahead and check out his channels. Give him a sub. Give him a like on his end of his video for this battle as well. I'm sure he would definitely appreciate it. I certainly appreciate all of you who watch my battles. Also, Game Freak, this lightning effect for your latest regulation is very distracting. Just want to throw that out there. But, all that said, thank you guys so very much for watching. I have been Ruppy, and my Columbus Swoo and I will see you guys next time. Take care.